In this tutorial we will use two controllers. One controller is used to move the character. The other controller is used to rotate the character. Now, let's make the functions one by one while watching the tutorial video. First, let's look at the animator applied to the character. When the game is started, the character is standing with a dummy rifle. If I change the value of the property named isRun to true, the character will play the run animation. Implementing the character's movement function was shown in the previous tutorial, so let's proceed quickly. I will create a character controller and animator variable. Next, I will add two float variables needed to move the character, and a vector3 variable to change the character's position. Let's add code to the start method to get the character controller component applied to the character. Next, I will get the animator component as well. For a video of making a virtual joystick, please refer to the link at the top right. The joystick class is applied to the UI image with the following name. Let's make the character move via keystroke or joystick in the update method. Each X and Y input will refer to the joystick's horizontal and vertical float public variables. Since we succeeded in receiving the input values of input X and input Y, we will assign them to the X and Z values of vector3. I will temporarily multiply each variable by 0.07 so the character doesn't move too fast. Now that the vector3 variable is ready, we can move the character through the move command on the character controller. Apply the script to a game object called Manager Control Car. Let's play the game and move the character. It is confirmed that the character is moved to the desired position. Now let's make it play a running animation as the character moves. The function of character animation will be implemented simply. I will make it play an idle animation if there is no keystroke, and vice versa, a running animation. Let's run the game again and check if the animation works well. An idle animation will play when the character is in place. However, if the character moves, it is confirmed that the running animation plays. Now let's create another controller to rotate the character. In this tutorial, we will make the character rotate when dragging the UI image. This UI image will be transparent, so there is no need for a separate image. Let's modify the value of anchor like the screen so that the position and size of the image are constant in any aspect ratio of the screen. This area will be the virtual controller that will rotate the character. This area is not absolute, so please modify it to suit your project. I will adjust the color and transparency so that the game screen can be seen clearly. Next, I will add a small stick image to visually show the dragging position. It is not essential, so please decide after watching this video. Now let's create a script called manager controt and apply the script to the area image we just created. As mentioned earlier, the UI image will be the control area, so let's add the Unity UI and event system directives. And I will register the UI image that will be the control area as a variable. Let's also add a vector2 variable to store the dragging position. By adding IDragHandler and IPointerDownHandler, we will create an event that can click and drag the UI image. The subsequent steps are the same as for creating a virtual joystick function. We need to add the onDrag function, which is a required method of IDragHandler. For the function to drag within the image, please put the code like the screen. Since we have already used the same code to implement the virtual joystick, I will omit the detailed description. Let's put debug code to see if the function works properly. Next, we need to add on pointer down, which is the required method of IPointerDownHandler. Since this method is the start of a click or touch, we just need to call the onDrag method when this method is executed. Don't forget the code that receives the component of the control area image. If I click and drag on the image, we can see that the position of the drag is displayed on the console. From the center, we can see that the left side outputs a negative number and the right side outputs a positive number. We can see that the y-axis also outputs positive numbers at the top and negative numbers at the bottom. I will add one more image variable so we can see where it is being dragged. This stick image is a child of the control area image. Now the added stick image will move according to the x and y values of the vector2 variable POSOut. If we substitute the size delta value of the image as it is, the movement will be large, so we divide 50 by that value. If I drag, we can see that the stick image follows. Just like the virtual joystick function I showed you before, when we lift our finger off the screen, the stick image should be in its original position. Let's add an IPointerUpHandler to make that function. The IPointerUpHandler class also needs to add a reserved method, onPointerUp. This method is executed when the touch input of the UI is terminated. I will initialize the variable of vector2 to 0 so that the position of the stick image is located at the center of the parent image when the touch input is finished. If I release the mouse button while dragging, it is confirmed that the stick image returns to the center of the area image. Now, let's create a public variable so that the x and y values of the POSOut variable can be used by the outer class. I will write the code to return the x and y values of POSOut in each public float variable. We can simply use one return statement, but there is no need to return a value when the user does not input any direction, so I added a conditional statement. Now all that remains is to rotate the character. Let's go to the manager can't move script. I will create a class variable so that we can access the manager can't rot. And I'm going to write a code that receives this class in the start method. Let's prepare another vector3 variable to rotate the character. Now, at the end of the update method, I will write the code for the character's rotation. I will assign the x and y values of pos out of the manager can't rot script to the vector3 variable I just created. Since this tutorial uses the look rotation command of the quaternion function, we will only use the x and z values instead of the y values of the vector3 variable. The target to be rotated will be the character's mesh. This is because the parent is already taking on the role of mobility. Let's add a transform variable to use the character's mesh in our script. And in the start method, I will add code to get that component. Since the transform.getChild syntax is being used redundantly, the code below will be replaced with a variable of mesh car. Now let's write some code to rotate the character's mesh. As mentioned earlier, I will use the look rotation command of the quaternion function to rotate the character mesh. Let's check if the movement and rotation of the character works well. It is confirmed that the rotation function of the character works well as we intended. The character's movement seems a little slow, so let's adjust it quickly. A warning message is displayed in the console window. A warning message is displayed when the character's rotation value is 0. Let's go back to the manager can't move script. I will modify the code that rotates the character mesh as a conditional statement. I'm going to modify the code to rotate the character's mesh when the pos out output of manager can't rot as non-zero. Additionally, the control area doesn't need to be visible anymore, so I will make it completely transparent. It is confirmed that the warning is no longer displayed. That's all for today's video. Thank you. See you next time.